What's up, my wizards? It's Dev from Mtg on the YouTube.com. We like magic, and today we're doing a tribal deck in standard, but it's not vampires, dinos, pirates, or fish people. Instead, we're going to do a deck today that's been the talk of modern for about a month now, so I figured we'd try it out in standard, and the results have been surprisingly good, so I figured I'd go ahead and share it with you. Here's 4-color humans. Now, obviously, there's not a whole lot of tribal support for humans in Standard right now, but we do have a big payoff piece that supports literally every tribe, Vanquisher's Banner, which we're going to play a whole 4 of. And y'all, I finally got to play with this card, I've done pretty much every major tribe in Ixalan up to this point, but haven't used Vanquisher's Banner. In some decks, I felt like the curve was way too low to support a 5-drop like Banner, and in other decks, I felt like there were just better 5-drops in the tribe that I wanted to play. So, this is my first time playing Vanquisher's Banner. The card is stupid awesome. There's a lot of cool things about this. Well, first of all, this deck is 4 stinking colors, so it's really nice to have something at the top of our curve that we're working towards all game that we know won't care about what mana we have in play, which is just really reassuring. And aside from that, the card just has relevance all the time. It has relevance the turn you play it. You can play it first main phase, and even though you might not draw any cards that turn, all your dudes just got a little bit fatter, so you might be able to swing them in better, or it just might help you block when you say go. But if you actually untap with a Vanquisher's Banner out, things can snowball super fast, Even with just like 1 turn with a banner out and all your mana available to you, you can draw 2 or 3 sometimes extra cards, and it's just ridiculous the value that you're getting out of Banner. Plus, all the creatures that you're playing off these cards that you're drawing and stuff, they're a little bit bigger because you got Banner in play. At the end of the day, it's just like everything an aggro deck wants, It keeps us from running out of gas, and it makes all of our little dudes a little bit bigger. So I think it's definitely worth going to 5 on the curve, and it's worth playing a playset, because it's not like multiples are a bad thing or anything. Quite the opposite, in fact. Let's talk about these creatures here, and I figured we'd start with our other big payoff for playing humans, but hilariously, it's another card that pays off no matter what tribe you're playing, and that's Metallic Mimic, which we'll play all 4 of. Limited is a bit obvious, we kind of have to play all 4 of this, no questions asked. Not only does it make anything we play after it a little bit bigger, which is awesome, obviously, but it's awesome in multiples, and it's really good alongside Banner, between Mimic and Banner, especially if you have multiples of any of those. Our creatures will get, downright huge. I hate the word downright, but I'm going to use it here. Our creatures will get downright huge before it's all said and done, And it's also cool, this is another big payoff card that doesn't care about our mana, Again, 4-color deck, you guys, so it's nice that our big payoff pieces don't stretch that mana base any thinner than it already is. So just no-brainer auto-include, play all 4 copies of Mimic. But on to the actual humans, and not just the remarkable facsimiles. We're going to start with 1 copy, just the fun of Ovia Pashiri all the way down here at the bottom of the curve. Now, I have actually seriously seen Ovia pop up in a couple of lists as of the last month or so here. It's always exciting to see Ovia pop up, because I have always had faith in this card. For a 1-drop, this really does a lot, and this deck is no exception. Obviously, it's a human, and once we have a banner out, it's just 1 mana to draw a card, which is pretty dope in and of itself. But, we've got a bunch of creatures in this deck, 26 to be exact, and the ability to draw a butt ton of cards, not just because of Banner, but because of other stuff that we're playing. So we're going to be playing creatures all game, so her second ability to just make a huge guy is insanely relevant a lot of the time. I don't want her on turn 1 every game, but she's a really good top deck, so 1 of I think is warranted. It's fine. But there's more, she can also just make chump blockers for us if we want her to do that, and the best thing about her is that she's one of the only actual, mana sinks in this deck. If we got nothing better to do with our mana than either one of Ovia's abilities, or at least something, and I'm telling you, her second ability is surprisingly good a lot of the time. Now, I'm going to play 4 copies of Channeler Initiate in the deck, because again, 4 colors. I'm going to really beat that into the ground here. We're playing 4 colors, we want to be able to make whatever mana we want, and it's kind of cool that we can ramp into Vanquisher's Banner on turn 4 too. There's also the fact that with Metallic Mimic and Vanquisher's Banner, sometimes this thing can grow to a 4-5 or a 5-6 occasionally even, so there's that too, once it stops being able to produce mana for you, it can just be a huge guy. It really hits all the marks here, so I'm going to play all 4. There's a couple of 2-ofs here at the 2-drop slot, but I think they're both important to play, especially in this meta, but I don't want to play too many of them, especially in this meta, so I'll get to talking about that. We're going to play 2 copies of Kitesail Freebooter here. Well, Kitesail is a pretty decent proactive answer to a lot of stuff right now, like obviously removal, but not just removal. You know, there's Anointed Procession, Godpharaoh's Gift, Chandra, Search for Azcanta. This gets a lot of really important cards in this meta out of their hand really early, so I'm at least playing a couple of main deck copies of Freebooter. We're also going to play 2 copies of Harsh Mentor. We're taking a page out of Ramanap Red's recent playbook, and honestly, couldn't agree with their choice more. The card is actually really good in this format right now, where it hoses a bunch of different stuff, or at least pressures the opponent's life total for trying to do stuff they really want to do. You know, sometimes Hazaret's activated ability is really important. This punishes them for that. Scarab God punishes them for that. Azcanta, once it flips into the land, punishes them for that, you know. And it really hurts energy decks that like stuff like Long Tusk Cub, Bristling Hydra. All of those are activated abilities, and they really can't afford to lose 6 or 8 life to a Harsh Mentor over the course of a game. So Mentor is actually insane right now. Now to finish off our 2 drops, we're going to play 3 copies of Glint-Sleeve Siphoner, super hot card right now. You know, we've got Hub in the mana base, and we've got another energy producer or 2 in here. So I really wanted Glint-Sleeve to take advantage of that. You know, sometimes this can draw us a few cards, 2, 3 cards in a game, and that's just insane card advantage, you know. It's great to drop against control in the early game. We get this down on turn 2, well, that usually results in at least 4 damage and at least a couple of cards drawn, which is backbreaking against control decks, or really any deck that takes a few turns to get started up. So Glint-Sleeve is just really at peak performance right now. We're going to play 3 and pack the 4th in the sideboard for when we come across control. But on to the 3 drops, and we're going to start the 3 drops with another creature that's seeing an awful lot of play right now, and that's Rogue Refiner, which you're going to play all 4 copies of. Well, Refiner's just never bad, you know, whether you get it on turn 3, turn 5, turn 9, it's just not a bad card, whether you top deck it or you play it on curve. Drawing you a card is just super always relevant. Getting you the 3-power body is usually relevant at least for trading, but if you got a banner in play, you know, a 4-power body for 3 mana is no joke, especially one that draws you 2 cards. If you have a Vanquisher's banner out, that's crazy. It's really good if you have an Ether Hub on the mana on the field, you know, sort of refuels your mana for the next couple of turns. So just everything about Rogue Refiner is pretty jamming, you know, and it's really good on curve with Glint-Sleeve. You know, turn 2 Glint-Sleeve into turn 3 Rogue Refiner gives you 2 bodies and a bunch of cards. And last thing, and kind of a subtle thing, but really important to remember in this deck, is that playing cards like Glint-Sleeve and Rogue Refiner actually helps get you as much value out of Vanquisher's banner as possible, because, you know, they allow you to draw a couple of cards before you play Vanquisher's banner, ensuring that you still have cards in your hand when you play Vanquisher's banner. You know, you don't want to draw a banner and have no cards in your hand, so these provide you a little bit of gas throughout the, you know, early and mid game, so that once you get to your banner, you still have cards to play and draw cards off of. The other 3-drop we're playing is the 2 copies of Pia Naylar, the only other red card, in the main deck at least. There's another in the sideboard, but we'll talk about that when we get to that bridge. You know, Pia Naylar doesn't look super powerful, but she actually does an awful lot in this deck. Well, Pia's just kind of always a good deal under, like, any circumstances. I've always been a big fan of Pia Naylar, you know. It's just a great investment of mana that's, like, way above curve in a lot of ways. But with a Vanquisher's banner out, she's downright filthy. This card is disgusting if you play her with a banner. You know, 3 mana for 4 power split among 2 creatures. One of them's a Thopter, so it flies. She can pump that Thopter if you want her to, or she can sack the Thopter to, like, make something not block. You know, she's a good mana sink. There's just so many awesome things about Pia, whether or not you have a Vanquisher's banner out, you know. And in this deck, another subtle thing to remember is that she can pump Metallic Mimics if you want her to, or if you're just done with your Metallic Mimics, she can also sort of just sacrifice them to keep big creatures from blocking. So there's a lot of relevant points to playing Pia in this deck. She's just sick. But we'll finish off the creatures with the 4 copies of Hostage Taker, which I hope you saw coming, you know. The card is just so dope right now. Hostage Taker is some of our only actual removal in the deck, but that's totally fine. You know, Hostage Taker is either going to remove their best creature and just allow us to get through. Sometimes it'll just allow, like, remove a pesky blocker and allow us to get through with our guys. We can play that creature later, but even if we don't play the creature, who cares? It's still removal on a body. That's just so good, you know. And if you play it after Vanquisher's Banner or even after Metallic Mimic, you know, that'll make its toughness 4, and that's really good against stuff like Lightning Strike and Abrade and all that. So just just so much good in this deck about Hostage Taker, so much good in this format about Hostage Taker. We're definitely playing all 4 copies. That leaves us room for 8 spells in the deck, and we're definitely going to spend half those slots on Blossoming Defense. The card is just way too good right now, and we specifically have to protect Hostage Taker and Kitesail Freebooter, and this does that for just 1 mana. It's also just a really good combat trick. +2/+2 for 1 mana is no joke. It can blow things out in combat sometimes, you know, or it can even be used as a pump spell to just get through for more damage, which kind of won the Pro Tour this time around. So just, yes, 1 mana for Blossoming Defense is just an insane deal. It might be the best way to spend 1 mana in all of Standard right now, so you're not going to catch me playing 2 or 3 copies of Defense. We'll play all 4. And the other half of our 8 spell slots are going to go to Attune with Ether here for every reason. You know, Attune with Ether is the other best way to spend 1 mana in this format. That's kind of the only thing you could argue with Blossoming Defense, but it's just that good. You know, we're 4 freaking colors, so we have to game plan and fix our mana as early as turn 1 sometimes. So an Ether Hub into, you know, Attune with Ether on turn 1 is just a crazy play. It sets you up for multiple turns to come, you know. Just mana's very important to us, and fixing it for just 1 mana on turn 1 a lot of the time, while also providing more mana for Hub is just, yes, all of that is too good, and it helps us push the land count down, which is really important. And speaking of lands, here they are right here. We're going to play 22 of them in the deck, and the centerpiece is obviously Unclaimed Territory. You know, there's a bunch of humans in this deck, so, and, you know, even though Metallic Mimic isn't technically a human, you can still use Unclaimed Territory to cast Mimic, which is pretty stinking important a lot of the time, you know. And, yeah, the modern deck is 5-color humans, but it has access to Cavern of Souls. We don't have that, so we're just going to play Ether Hub and a bunch of stuff that produces energy in the deck. Luckily, a lot of it's humans. Now here's our sideboard right here, and it's actually relatively straightforward. You know, you got Deadeye Tracker in there against mostly the Godfarer's Gift decks in the format right now, but there's plenty of decks that care about their graveyard, and Scarab God's a thing, you know. Appetite for the Unnatural, by the way, while we're on the subject of Godfarer's Gift, is also for that deck, but it can also take out Anointed Procession and Cast Outs and Ixalan's Bindings and stuff, so Appetite is actually really, really relevant a lot of the time. Fatal Push is going to come in against aggro. We don't necessarily punt game 1 to aggro or anything, but we definitely help that matchup a lot by bringing in Fatal Push, and yeah, you could make room in the main for it, but if we're going to play all 4 copies of Unclaimed Territory, I really want to push the creature count up there pretty high, and I don't want to get rid of either Attune or Blossoming Defense, so I just don't know how to make room in the main for it at the very least. Glint-Sleeve Siphoner will finish off the playset of against Control. Kitesail Freebooter also in there against Control, especially decks like Approach of the Second Sun decks, you want those. And then Negate is also mostly against Control because they'll play Sweepers, and we really hate Sweepers, but Negate can obviously counter a bunch of other stuff, but we're mostly playing those Negates so that we don't get swept, because that's the end of our game a lot of the time if we do get swept. Another copy of Harsh Mentor, that's a 3 of, all told, and the only other red card in the entire deck, by the way, but it's just that important against all the stuff I named before, you know, Hazoret, Scarab God, Cub, Virtuoso, Hydra, Azcanta, all that stuff. Card is really ridiculous against, so we'll pack a 3rd in the sideboard. And that's pretty much it, but there are other cards that I considered for this board. I really wanted to find room for Lifecrafter's Bestiary, but I figured it's kind of redundant with Vanquisher's Banner, so I didn't end up playing it. Combat Celebrant you could also try if you wanted to be that guy. You know, it's a pretty fun card. And then, to get serious, though, Voltaic Brawler, I didn't find room for in the main deck or the sideboard, but I'd really like to be able to bring it in against Control sometimes, just to have something really fast and, you know, big for the mana that we're investing into it. So finding room for Voltaic Brawler may actually be a priority here. And here are your power rankings. A final score of 65, which surprises me, honestly. But again, the success that I've had with the deck over the last week really surprised me, too. You know, this deck doesn't actually look like much. Just looks like a bunch of janky humans and Vanquisher's Banner. But actually, it kind of feels a little bit like playing Hate Bears. You know, a lot of our humans do something when they enter the battlefield, and some of them hose strategies. You know, Hostage Taker takes their best creature off the board. Kitesail Freebooter is obviously good against specific combo decks and control decks, and some of those decks are one and the same, like Approach, you know. So this deck in Harsh Mentor is like the definition of a Hate Bear. So the deck kind of feels like a Hate Bear's deck too, and that's really, really cool. it's just a little bit more malleable than it appears, you know? It's got some explosive starts, but it can also draw a bunch of cards with Siphoner and Rogue Refiner and Vanquisher's Banner, draw the game out a little bit. It's a good grindy deck because once you get your Vanquisher's Banner down, you're definitely going to out-card advantage them, you know? But sometimes you'll win before you even get your banner out because you're playing a bunch of relatively effective creatures too. So there's just a lot to like about this deck, and it does an awful lot. If you want to give this thing a try right now, it's about $200 on TCG Player. Maybe a little bit north, but not too much more than $200, which sounds like a lot, but it's like half of what any of the Pro Tour top 8 decks are, you know. They've all hit about 400 at this point. So it's only half of that, and it's super freaking fun, you know. And it's got a lot of the same pieces as like an energy deck or the Sultai energy deck especially. So, you know, you can sort of work your way towards that deck with this deck. But honestly, I've played Sultai Energy. It's a lot of fun. This is even more fun. This is a really, really fun tribal deck that has nothing to do with any of the tribes we're supposed to be playing in Ixalan, but I don't care. It turns out a lot of the humans are really, really good right now, and that's evidenced, by the way, by the fact that we're playing a bunch of what appears to be jank, but still ends up $200, and it's not all just because of the mana base, you know. A lot of these creatures are a relatively high price right now in this standard, and that's because they're all relatively highly played in this standard. There's a lot of powerful cards in this deck. So give it a try, y'all. I'm telling you, between Banner, Glint-Sleeve Siphoner, Rogue Refiner, you are drawing all the cards in the world, and you've got 26 different creatures in the deck, and effectively 2 different Anthem effects for those creatures. So it's just like, things snowball out of control so fast, especially once you get a Banner down. It's really hard to lose the game if you untap with a Banner in play. So I'm telling you, try this thing out. It looks janky, but it's way better than it looks. And if you want to view this deck all in one place in one time, super convenient for you, just click the first link in the description box down there, and that'll take you over to TCG Player, my favorite website. They help sponsor my content and such and help the deck techs keep coming. So help me out by clicking that first link in the description, take you right over to them. You can do what you want from there. But I guess that's pretty much it. I'm tapped out for now. You can like the video if you like the video. Make sure you sub for more deck techs and a bunch of spoiler content coming up. Hit the bell for the notifications if you haven't done that yet. Trying to get to 70K. You can also follow me on Twitter at SBMTGDev or throw me $1 on Patreon at patreon.com/SBMTG, and you'll be able to see what decks we do the day before I actually upload them. So you probably want that, but I'm pretty sure that's it. Yeah, I want to say that's all the YouTube stuff. I'm getting frighteningly good at that. Honestly, I'm not comfortable with how good I am at that. So, in any case, I will be bringing you more content really, really soon. So make sure you do all the YouTube stuff I was just talking about, and I'll catch you cats later. I'm Deb from SBMTG. Thanks for watching, my wizards.